Good evening and welcome everyone. Today we are actually in a new era with the new Prime Minister, and if everyone has been watching the TV, you would know the amount of confidence he gives to all of us as Indians. And the markets have also saluted by going up and up, based only on the research reports of so many of those companies which were talking about BJP win. What is, Modi has come with an absolute majority. And why I believe in that person? All the rallies which he did, why did so many people come? They came not because of BJP. They came because they believed in what he was saying. I think that's one of the most important things. And today, he is the Prime Minister. He is the only Prime Minister which our country has got who has been really elected by the people on an agenda which he has told everyone. So there is no way that he can get out of it. I think that is the confidence which our country has from our new Prime Minister. Don't go by the markets. Markets, one day they'll go up, and they can only go up again if they go down. Markets ultimately goes on sentiments. And sentiments driven markets give you an idea what the trend is. But if you make decisions out of those sentiments, you are bound to lose in your financial interest. Except if you are a long-term investor, then whatever happens, if you are willing to wait for 5, 10, 15 years, well, even these are golden times to invest. But the mistake which we make is, invest. Where should I invest? Good company. Correct. But in behavioral terms, there is something like a representative bias. That means you make your decision based on stereotypes or something which is compared to something else. Give you a small example, the mistakes we make in the investment world and which you are bound to make today is a good company and a good stock. Company may be good, but it could be a bad stock. Bad stock would be because you are paying a fabulous price for it. Most people during the technology boom bought stocks of Wipro and Infosys, thinking I'm buying a good company, so what, where can I go wrong? But they were buying a very bad stock. And those who bought it at those high rates, even till today, I doubt whether they are profits. So in these markets, it's very important to understand the price you are paying for these stocks. Secondly, what is doing the rounds today? Power stocks. Yes, India is power deficit. Power is something very important. Power companies are important for our country. But that does not mean that if you buy a power stock, over a period of time you will make money. Reason is simple. There is something like a value in exchange and a value in use. Value in use is water. It's so very important for us to have water. But nobody will sell you water, or you will not be able to get money out by selling someone water. Someone may argue about the packaging, water bottles, but that you are paying for the packaging and all. Now value in exchange is something like a diamond. It's got very tremendous value in exchange, but it has no value in use. If you are thirsty, you will require water, and nobody pays money for that. And diamond, it cannot save you if you are dying. It's got a value in exchange. This is one mistake we are bound to make in these markets. Power is got very good value in use, but value in exchange, I doubt it. It's a hardcore necessity for people. Narendra has a plan. Everyone will have electricity everywhere. You think can they go on anything for electricity? It cannot happen. So none of these companies are going to have a pricing power. They will not be able to really make money for you as shareholders. Of course, just now we are talking as stock owners trying to maximize good investment opportunities. So, by just blindly getting into power stocks, where there is no value in exchange, is not going to get money. Similarly, you have infrastructure stocks which are doing the round. These are long gestation period stocks. Business is long, a period of time, and it requires huge amount of capital. As value investors, it does not pass the test. When you buy a stock which requires huge amount of capital, because then the company would be only working for the credit. So that is one sector where just now the euphoria is there. I think we need to be very careful. If you find a good infrastructure stock and there is not much capital expenditure, then there is something else. There is one stock which we have been always talking about, is Noida Toll Bridge. It was languishing. It's an infrastructure stock where all the debts have been paid, only marginal debt. Within a couple of years it should be debt free. Now these stocks are available to 8 times earnings. I think think that as value investors. Anyways, we are actually bullish on the markets. We are excited about the markets over a long period of time. In the short run, the markets can go away. And the most important thing to understand is you have to buy when you really are buying. And just now if you are feeling like buying, be a little away from the markets. The markets will give you opportunities. And I'll ask Rajeev Thakkar. He had gone to Berkshire and Hathaway meeting, and he's prepared a presentation which is going to share with us, and I'm sure you'll find it interesting, because what Warren Buffett, what Charlie Munger does there, how the thing works, it will excite most of you, and I'm sure next year, God willing, because both of them are very old, whether we have a meeting like this and you'll be able to go. Rajeev? Yeah.
Good evening. Neil and I did something which investors call a pilgrimage. So people go to religious places, but for investors, there's only one congregation which is of this scale and of this quality, which is the annual Berkshire meeting in Omaha, which happens in the first weekend of May each year. It's quite far. It's not close. It's about 13,000 kilometers from here, and taking into account the transit times and the airport security and jet lag and all of that, it takes about 2 days each way. To get a good seat, you have to be in the queue by about 5 a.m. in the morning. Many a times it rains. Luckily, it did not this year. This is last year it was raining. When it rains with a lot of breeze, and temperatures are around Celsius. And even if you have an umbrella, you tend to get wet. So it's freezing out there. So it takes a lot of pain. It's not easy. Like most pilgrimages, it involves some bit of pain. The question is, why take the pain? What's so special about it? Why do people go over there to attend the meet? Is it just to brag about it, saying I went there, or just to show people that you attend Berkshire meet? Or is it something that you get out of it? So I would tend to twist the question. So today we have these huge high definition TVs, projection TVs and whatnot. We have multiple camera angles shooting any cricket match. You have instant replays, you have slow motions and whatnot. You can see cricket matches in the comfort of your living room with air conditioning, with all the snacks and beverages that you can have. Still, you have people going to see cricket matches in the stadium. Now, this Berkshire meeting is not telecast anywhere. There is no recording of it. You can't see the meeting. What best you can do is you can read the notes that someone prepares, someone who's attended the meeting. They'll prepare notes and post it on internet. So at best you can do that. Over the years, the quality of those notes have improved. So today it's almost like having a transcript, a verbatim transcript of what happened at the meeting. But it's not equal to actually being there. It's a bit like, I don't know, sir, the people may not be old enough, but most are. The first World Cup that India won in cricket, we did not have a telecast at that time, and we were listening to the thing on radio, and everyone wishes that they were there to see the event happening. So it's something like reading about a cricket match in the newspapers. It's not as much fun as actually being there. So people who want to read about what actually happened, a simple Google search will suffice. There are plenty of transcripts. This is one of the links, but plenty of them. So notes you will get. So today's talk, I'll give you more behind the scenes kind of thing, and what were the key takeaways that I found interesting, rather than trying to give you a verbatim transcript of all that happened over there. So in his own words, Buffett has called this gathering a Woodstock for capitalists. So this is what the meeting venue looks like in terms of all these people who have gathered here. So despite having a stadium, a basketball stadium, there are still not enough seats for all the people who come over there. So once the stadium is full, this meeting is telecast on a closed circuit TV. in the hall of another hotel which is opposite the stadium. Students and other invitees watch the event over there. So in all, it is estimated that about somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 people come to Omaha every year for this meeting, and the lucky ones get into the stadium, the other people watch it on screens. So when he calls it the Woodstock for capitalists, it's not very far from truth. This is what the Woodstock looked like. Woodstock was a musical event that happened for music fans, and the scenes are somewhat similar. And the performers are these two guys. It's a very high quality picture, but actually this was taken on the sly by somebody. You are not supposed to take the picture in the meeting, so I don't know who took the picture.
Not you.
Not me. It's downloaded. So just to tell people, you are not allowed to do any audio or video recording of the meeting or take any photographs. You can take pictures before the meeting starts. So the video that was recorded of the crowd, that was taken before the meeting began, and that you are allowed to do. So why do people want to listen to this guy? Two reasons. One, obviously he is very wealthy and people want to figure out his secret recipe. And the other reason is that the recipe is not so secret, is that he is willing to explain his methods to anyone and everyone. He is willing to create competition for himself. He is willing to explain how he has succeeded in life. And also probably because he is not boring. So a lot of bright people, a lot of intelligent people put you off to sleep, and people never get excited by those subjects. But these two guys are extremely witty, they are quick thinking people, and any question that is put to them, they have a very good answer for that. So I guess that's the reason why all these people turn up for the meeting. And the meeting goes on from, I told you, you have to queue up somewhere about 5 a.m. Some people queue up overnight. So to be first in the queue, they reach before midnight. The gates to the stadium open at 7 o'clock. After that, once people are in their seats, there's a movie which is specially created for this event, which is shown to the audience, and then the question answer session begins. That goes on from about 9 a.m. in the morning till about 4 p.m. So with a lunch break thrown in for 1 hour. So they are continuously on their seats answering questions, and considering the fact that Buffett is now 83, about to turn 84, and Munger is 90, it's a remarkable feat for them to have that kind of a stamina. And one thing which surprises me is the diet that these two guys have. So from whatever one knows of Buffett, he keeps eating sugary stuff, fried stuff. So he loves burgers, he loves his red meat in the form of steaks, he keeps having sugared cherry coke and boxes of See's candies, and still he is in good health. And from whatever I know, he is not too much into physical sports or too much into exercising. Once in an interview, he was asked, how come you are so healthy? So he had this answer for the interviewer. He said that how long you live depends on how long your parents live. So because of genetic factors. He says, I read that somewhere. So on my mom's birthday, I bought her a treadmill so that my mom lives longer and consequently I'll live longer. I guess the secret to their good health would be that they enjoy doing what they are doing. That's the only thing that I can see. So 6 of us made this trip. Neil, who is here, next to him is Mansi, his sister-in-law. One thing about Mansi, she was so excited about being at this meeting. She wanted to attend this meeting for many years and never had a chance. This year, since Neil was coming, she said, I want to be here. And while she was here, one of the days was her wedding anniversary. So she was here alone and her husband was back home. Next to Mansi is Khushbu. Khushbu, some of you all may be knowing. She also attends FOF sessions once in a while. That is Neil's wife. Next to her is Hema, who is my wife, myself, and my daughter Dhwani. At this meeting, an interesting thing that you will see is a lot of people come with their family. Some of the older shareholders will have their spouses, will have their children, 3 or 4 of them, will have their children's spouses and will have their grandchildren coming to the meeting. These are people who have been with Berkshire for many, many years, who have created a lot of wealth, and the whole experience is, so why do I take my wife and kid along? So obviously it costs money in terms of air ticket and stay and food. So do they enjoy the meeting? The answer is yes. And somewhere the whole value system gets inculcated in different generations as to how to look at investing, as to how to look at business and how to look at life. So that's the way it typically happens. And people who have been doing this have been loyal shareholders over generations. So it's not that after the original investor passes away, the children are in a hurry to sell the shares. No, they also remain close to lifetime investors in Berkshire. So I'll just highlight some of the things that I found interesting. As I said, transcripts are there on the internet. I can forward a link. I'll just highlight the things I found interesting in the meeting. So the building behind us is Buffett's house. You will notice the lack of fences, and there's a chain link fence somewhere over here, but we could have walked up right up to his gate, and maybe then one security guard would have politely asked us to go out of the compound. I think that would have been about it. It seems to be a big house by our city standards, but for a small town like Omaha, it's an average home. It's nothing great. This street, Farnham Street, appears on 2 addresses. One is his residence address and the second is his office address. So both his office and residence are on the same street. When you look at his office and when you look at his home, you learn something about it. This is something that I learned 3 years back, and you tend to forget it over time and then you relearn it. The learning is that you should have everything that you need, but then beyond that, leave out the superficial stuff. So when he is asked about his average home, he always says this. He says that I have everything that I need, and if spending $50,000 would give me more happiness, I would spend that in a blink of an eyelid. I would not hesitate spending that. So I have a large TV in my house, I have adequately furnished home, I have a good car and everything. But if you have all those things, having 50 cars is pointless. You are at a time going to drive only one car, then why have these many cars? So his approach in life is simplistic, have what you need, and beyond that don't hanker about, don't go after material possessions, because then you tend to spend a lot of time behind those. Considering his town, his home, his office, I think he would not be spending more than 15-20 minutes each way in commute, and rest of the time is there to do productive work. So that is one interesting thing to learn from his way of living. Again, he stays away from a lot of stimulus. Contrary to popular perception, he does know how to use computers. He plays bridge on the internet every day evening, but still he does not keep a computer on his desk. Whatever email that is sent to him is printed out by a secretary and given to him maybe once a day or twice a day. So he is not someone who is continuously watching ticker or who is continuously on a smartphone doing social media stuff or continuously checking email or things like that. Neither is he in a city like Manhattan where there are 20 brokers calling him or continuously rushing from meeting to meeting and stuff like that. In the morning, he would take either a pile of annual reports in his cabin or some books or something like that, read them, periodically come out to take a fresh lot, and whenever he feels like, get up and go home. So that's his work day. Maybe he would have a few phone calls during the day. What happens when you meet too many people, when you interact with too many financial analysts, or as a general rule, anyone who comes too often on CNBC, don't keep them in your circle. So that would be a good way of ensuring your financial well-being, because then every stimulus, no, Buffett also comes on CNBC. I said someone too frequently. So someone who's there on CNBC every afternoon or every week, you should try and be away from those guys, because then you would tend to overtrade. You would buy something and then like selling something and then buy something else. So keep away from stimulus which forces short-term action. One of the first questions he was asked at the meeting was relating to his vote on Coca-Cola compensation plan. Buffett had publicly said that he thinks the Coca-Cola compensation plan is excessive and that it should not be passed. And Berkshire is a big shareholder in Coca-Cola. Despite that, they did not vote against the plan. What they did was they abstained from the vote. So he was asked by various people as to why did he take this stance, and is it not bad corporate governance or things like that? And his answer was something with a deep meaning inside it, and probably someone like Mr. Arvind Kejriwal should learn from this. He said that you should learn to pick your fights. He said if you are going to start a nuclear war at the smallest thing that you don't like, then no one is going to take you seriously. People will either throw you out of the board or will stop consulting you or whatever. Then you don't remain as effective. He said also that when things can be worked out by backroom channels or by expressing your displeasure and by appealing to people's goodwill and good intent, then you should not go the fighting route. And this is something that you see throughout Buffett's career. He's never been someone who does hostile takeovers and things like that. Even earlier in Kraft Foods, where he was not in favor of their acquisition of Cadbury's, ultimately he expressed his displeasure in the public media, and then over a period of time he sold some shares, and that was about it. So he usually does not get into confrontation, and the one time that he actually got into confrontation, he calls it the biggest investing mistake of his life. So that was when he acquired Berkshire Hathaway. So at that time Berkshire Hathaway was a textile mill. He was actually looking to sell the shares. He agreed on a deal with the CEO of the company, and finally when the CEO made the offer in writing, that was a fraction of a dollar lower than the agreed upon price. So that angered Buffett, and he launched a counter offer, and finally was saddled with Berkshire Hathaway, which was a failing company at that time. He said, if I had not done this and used that cash to directly make the investments that I did, I would have been hundreds of billions dollars richer as a group. So he usually tends to stay away from fights. People talk about the intelligent investor and common stocks and uncommon profits as things that influence Buffett and all of that. That is well known. However, if you read his biography, Snowball, another book which has influenced him a lot is How to Win Friends and Influence People. He was a person who was shy of public speaking and who was not very comfortable with a lot of people, and then he read this book and he changed his ways. And today one of the principles that he lives by is he spreads around praise and good cheer all around. So whenever there is an occasion, he'll praise his partners, he'll praise his managers, he'll praise his employees. And at this meeting, in the movie, the star cast was all the unit heads, the heads of the railroad company, heads of insurance and all of that, and they were on screen, and in the stadium you actually had cheerleaders coming and dancing to cheer those managers. So just imagine if you are a listed company and you are sitting on the dais as a chairman or the managing director, and before your AGM starts, on the presentation you put all your key employees and you thank them and you say that the entire success of the company is because of these guys. Just imagine the kind of enthusiasm and motivation that would go through to your employees. And sometimes I suspect that there is an ulterior motive also here. Probably he pays them a little less money and gives them more praise in lieu of the money that he gives them. I think the next 3 or 4 points are the biggest takeaways that I had this year. For some of you who may not know, Berkshire has a big car insurance business, a division of Berkshire, which is Geico. They have a big investment in Coca-Cola, and there were questions about some others. So there was one particular question which asked them about his key investments and what are the threats that are there in those investments. So in car insurance, the insurance premium is determined by the age of the driver, by the past accident history and things like that. Now, one competitor of Geico has come out with a device which is put in the car. That device measures how the person is driving. So, is the person driving within speed limits at without sudden brakes and sudden acceleration and so on and so forth, how many miles are driven each year and all that, and they are able to price the premium accordingly. So, Buffett was asked whether that poses a big threat to the car insurance business that Berkshire runs. The second question was pertaining to something like Coca-Cola. He said that you have a big investment in Coca-Cola, people are turning health conscious, so people may stop drinking sugared drinks so much and people are moving towards other beverages. So, is that a threat to Coca-Cola? If a similar question were to be asked to any fund manager in a mutual fund, or if a similar question were to be asked to me about my investments, I would try and explain, or I would try and give my thoughts on how I see the future, etc. His answer was very simple. He said, I don't know. Maybe it will happen, maybe it won't happen. And which was really surprising. The logical question is, if he does not know the future, how is he remaining invested, or how does he go about his investing process? So, Munger and Buffett together gave this answer. They said that things keep coming in any business. Any and every business has evolution over time. So, this car insurance business itself, Geico, they said it started as government employees insurance, so insurance company. So, it was only for government employees. Over a period of time, they extended to others, then they were selling insurance by phone, then internet came in and various things happened. So, he said that while we have been invested, things have been changing. It's not that things remain constant. He said that there are two things that can go wrong when you are investing. One is you can overestimate change. The second is that you can underestimate change. Either of those two things can happen. He says typically if you have selected the company and the sector properly, the rate of change is not very fast. So, even if you are somewhat slow in catching a trend, you have time to take corrective action. So, for example, textile mills, they were wrong in anticipating the trend, but they could close down the textile mills and exit it. Some of the shoe companies or some of the retailing companies that they got into, those were not doing well and they were able to exit those. He said that many a times investors tend to overestimate change, and when they do that, they tend to throw away the good investments, fearing that this will happen or that will happen. And Munger gave this example of video on demand through internet or whatever. He said that we have been hearing about it for last 10-15 years in the US, and how that will cause the death of cable television or whatever DTH operators and so on. He said that it is actually happening. So, that video on demand thing is coming, but the pace at which people anticipated that it will come is very slow. And they were also asked about these driverless cars that Google is working on. So, for those who don't know, Google is working on a device or a complete car which does not require a driver. All that you need to do is feed in your destination and press some buttons, then the car will drive itself. It will stop at traffic signals, it will brake when pedestrians come in, or it will go slow when traffic is there, it will accelerate when the road is clear. It will do everything. And if technology is so advanced, then obviously accidents will come down. So what happens to car insurance then? So he says, I don't know when these driverless cars take off. It could happen in a few years, it could happen after decades. The rate of adoption is very difficult to anticipate, but you can't lose your sleep over that. You have to let things evolve, and many a times the pace of change is quite slow. They said that quick change is always visible and you will be able to take corrective action. The difficult part is where change is slow, and here they call it the boiling frog syndrome. They said that this story where if you put a frog in boiling water, it jumps out, but if you put frog in cold water and then slowly start heating it, a frog does not notice it and gets boiled. It's not scientifically true, but that story is told many a times. He says that most investors miss out on these slow changes. If the change comes over 5 years, 10 years, then they don't realize that the change is happening. He said that you should be on the lookout for such changes. And finally, they said that scramble out of your mistakes. So, coming from people who advocate holding stocks forever or holding businesses forever, it's interesting. They said that once a business is in a terminal state of decline or the business fundamentals have surely changed, then don't brood over the past or don't live on hope, saying that things will turn around or things like that. Then cut your losses and get rid of it. So they gave examples of their retail operations and Berkshire textile mills and all of that. Recently, Berkshire has partnered with a group called 3G Capital, and they acquired the ketchup company Heinz. There's a book on 3G Capital, and it's a very unique group which invests in various businesses. They have this approach of, they are fanatical about cutting costs. So they remove all superficial expenses and they improve margins and profitability dramatically. So in one of the forthcoming FOF sessions, we'll have a full discussion on this. So I'll skip this discussion for today. This is among the more interesting things that is happening at Berkshire, and Buffett mentioned that going forward they might do more deals in partnership with 3G Capital. So after a full day's meeting, this is Neil, this is the entrance of the stadium. So apart from the serious business of the meeting, Buffett also tries to make some money out of the meeting. I don't know whether his spending is more or his earnings are more, but he also tries to make some money out of the meeting. So while the meeting is going on, the spouses and kids and other family members are expected to shop. So this is my daughter in the chocolate shop. This is people queuing up to look at the fractional jet ownership, which again Berkshire sells. So I'll just play a small video of the exhibits that are there. It's almost the size of a full trade convention center, the exhibit area itself.
On Saturday, Berkshire Hathaway shareholders lined up before dawn for their annual meeting with Omaha's Oracle, Warren Buffett. While the Wall Street Journal couldn't film the Q&A, we did explore the convention floor stuffed with displays from Berkshire's businesses and many, many effigies of the man himself.
when he enters, he goes through the entire exhibit area and the media circus obviously follows him where he goes. Even while he is entering, you can see the Coke bottle in his hand. I wonder whether he ever drinks tap water. Probably only drinks Coke. So while people like me were buying these caps and this T-shirt and all of that, Buffett obviously is not interested in selling these low value items. He sells jewelry on the day after the meeting. He sells jewelry on Sunday. So this is Buffett at the jewelry counter selling expensive diamond rings and stuff like that. And 3 years back, freeloaders like me could pretend to be buyers and go up close and get into the same frame with him. But now they have plugged the loophole. They've become smart now. So this year, it's rumored that you had to buy a minimum of 200,000 US dollars worth of jewelry to actually talk to him and get that jewelry formally sold to you and take pictures with him and get his autograph and so on. So this year, there was a fence. We could only look at him from a distance. So apart from serious business and the meeting, there's also a lot of fun and games that happens. So the US table tennis champion is there to play games with shareholders. So whoever wants to be humiliated can go and make an attempt. Buffett, of course, in his humor, goes with a bat which is this big to play against her, to play ping pong against her. There's a US chess champion who simultaneously plays 8 to 10 people, and this guy is Patrick Wolf, and he himself is blindfolded. So he does not look at the board. He remembers all the moves and the board positions on all these different games that are going on, and he just speaks out his moves. The other people can actually look at the board and play. So all that he hears is the last move of the opponent, let's say pawn to d4 or whatever. It's quite amazing how he does it. This is Bill Gates right here. So this again photograph was taken 3 years back. This year, usually they have the bridge event where Buffett, Sharon Osbourne, Munger, sometimes, but Bill Gates, all these guys come and play bridge, and sometimes even shareholders get a chance to play bridge with them. But this year, this section seemed to be missing for some reason. Bill Gates, of course, was there for the formal part of the meeting. On the next day, he was not around. So, apart from me, Neil was there. Khushbu is not here today, but maybe in some subsequent sessions. Hansal just walked in, I think, 15 minutes back. I think he's just come to address you all. He's not interested in any of these things because he was there. So maybe Neil can talk about it for a few minutes, and then Hansal can talk about his experiences and his takeaways for a few minutes. That would be interesting. Lots of Indians were there.
My first time going for the meeting, and I can tell you all the experience was fabulous. I mean, I don't know how I can put this in words, because you have to experience it to actually believe what this thing is. I mean, the experience of everything, waking up at 4 in the morning, though my parents will tell you I'm not a morning person, standing in line at 5 o'clock in the morning, just in anticipation of getting in for the meeting in the cold. Once you're in the gate, you're running. I remember me and Rajeev, I've never seen Rajeev run, but we both were like running to get like the best seats possible. Because if you're coming from so far and if you miss out on getting a seat there, it's actually pointless. I mean, just to see them in person was a big deal. Just the fact that there were 40,000 people in a basketball stadium and still people were queuing up outside was just something phenomenal to see, you know. I mean, and everyone is like-minded, everyone is an investor, everyone from very different different parts of the world and different careers and very different purpose people have, but they are all just united by seeing these two people and what they've done for them. Like Rajeev spoke about that, we saw families, generations, grandmother, great-grandmother, parents, daughters, everyone together, you know, just coming as like a picnic, and it was just a fabulous thing to see that. It was overwhelming to see that these two people have done so much good for all these people, and it's just a way of them to come there and show their thanks and appreciation that what they've done. So I came to Omaha on Thursday night and I was like, okay, what type of place is this? Because I couldn't find a place to eat. You know, I was hungry, I couldn't find a place to eat. And I was like, okay, this is a really small town. So it's more like when I look back at it, it was like the lull before a storm, you know. The next day again was pretty dead until the evening where there was a reception held. The reception was held at Boschheim's, that's the jewelry shop. And it was a kind of a cocktails cum party, I don't know what you call it, you know. I didn't know what to expect, you know. So I went there thinking, okay, this is a formal kind of an event and we'll meet people, go in, and it was actually a Woodstock, you know, because there was a live band playing, live rock music playing, and people were dancing, and it was just like one big party, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And you meet people from all over the place. Everyone's just in a very happy mood, you know. We are meeting 40,000 people are just very happy, you know, and thankful that these people have made some money for them. The time I realized that I was among value investors was when I had to wait for more than an hour to get my free drinks in a line during this party. Because the value investors, I think for them the best thing is to get something free, and that's the best value. So when I was standing in line for more than an hour, I'm like, okay, everyone's here is about thinking around the same way, you know, everyone has the same kind of a thought process, and it was great. So that day was great. I mean, we went to the jewelry shop, obviously didn't buy too much, though my wife wanted me to buy her some stuff, but value investor, we really don't buy that much, so didn't really do that. The next day was the meeting, and that was very, I was worried that I won't wake up. Like I said, I'm not a morning person, but for some reason I woke up without the alarm even ringing. I was up, we all were ready. We were all ready to go by 4:45. We reached there, get some parking. We got the parking, and we knew the gates don't open till 8 o'clock. But at 4:45, all four of us were running, just so that we could probably get even better seats, you know. So that was fun. It was just the whole experience of meeting people. I think when we were in the line, we met this Pakistani student who had come also. He was doing a research paper on Berkshire Hathaway and the AGM. Next to me, there was this guy from the East Coast who had just flown in with his wife. He was about 65, 70 years old, and he had a chemical business, some chemical business, and they'd been coming here every year for 40 years, and that was their annual vacation out, you know. So it was just amazing to see that people come here for their annual vacation, like that's their family vacation. Then the meeting started. It was amazing. I mean, that was like the highlight. Obviously, these two people, I mean, 90 and 84, whole day from 9 to 5, answering questions patiently, to the point, you know, being very honest about it, making jokes about it, you know, making jokes to each other about it, just admitting that some mistakes that they had made in the past, and most of all, just seeing it in such simple language, like complex questions were made so simple that all 40,000 people in the audience could actually understand it, you know. I mean, that was the most fabulous thing. The other thing that caught my attention was just the relationship these two people have with each other. I think that is the most important. I think for me, that takeaway was, if you want to build an organization, the mutual respect these two guys have no jealousy, no one-upmanship, just being, they know what they both are, and they both have such great respect for each other. I think just because of that, the company is so big today, and I think that's one of the key takeaways. And they were really funny. And I'll have a few actually questions that they answered, and these are just general questions. These are nothing like in depth. So I thought this would probably be maybe a little for everyone. So one of the shareholder asked, who will replace Munger? He asked this to Warren during the question answer. Buffett, who's a few years younger, says, Charlie turned 90, and I find it very encouraging about how he's handling middle age. So, you know, they both are joking, and then Buffett actually acknowledges it's a good question. And he says that they always talk about replacing me, but they never talk about replacing Charlie. And for me, that was also something that the Warren feels that Charlie is like irreplaceable. I mean, he's there, and everyone's talking about Warren. But I think for Warren, he's like, he might be replaceable, but Charlie is probably not replaceable. The other questions were asked was, what would Warren do differently if he ran the Fed? I know in the last 6-8 months, there's a lot of talk about the Fed policies and what the Fed's doing, and do we agree what's going to happen to India? So I thought, let's see what Warren answers with this. I don't think I would be doing much differently, he says. He says he believes the Fed has done very well since the financial crisis. Because the Fed actions have worked. I would like to say I would have done exactly the same thing. But he acknowledges, I've been surprised at how well it's worked. He further goes, it's an interesting movie because we haven't seen it before, and also because we don't know how it ends. So, so at the same time, so I guess that gave me a little bit of confidence to know that he thinks that the Fed is doing something right, and I think whatever little bit of doubts we had, I think for me that was little bit became less, you know, that even if the Fed happens, it wouldn't be a big deal, because this guy was very confident about it. A young shareholder asked him that he's not interested in technology, because this guy was working in the technology field, but he wants to be an entrepreneur. He asked Warren, what would he do if he was 23 years old now and had no interest in the technology? Take some time out, and but you're going to be miserable if you don't do what you like. And that was, for a young person like me, that was a great takeaway also. One other question was, what companies does he see as Berkshire as competition? Buffett says there isn't one. I don't see any competitor to Berkshire, he says. There are always going to be people competing with us to buy businesses. But I don't see anyone who has a model that will essentially go after what we are trying to achieve. Buffett and Munger conclude that others don't try to do what they do because it takes too long. Munger says, the difficulty of being slow is that you're dead before you're finished. Buffett says, well, that's cheerful. So, I mean, for me, just the camaraderie that these two guys have is what makes the meeting that great, you know. I mean, I guess if tomorrow, if not them were not there in this meeting, I think the whole experience will be absolutely diluted. So, I mean, I am very thankful, and that I could hear when both these people were there together, and I think that's what makes Hathaway, both of them together, just not one of them. Thanks.
Thanks for the chance, actually. I would add on to, first of all, he explained it brilliantly, because this was an experience second to none, and more importantly, because like Neil said, both of them were there. So, if I had to add anything to what Neil said, I think we'd just break it up in 3 divisions: Buffett the man, Buffett the businessman, and Buffett the comic, because the whole event was practically within this. So, I think like how Neil had interesting people besides him, I had a lady on my right who, we get chatty, right? So I asked her, have you benefited from this, from buying Berkshire shares and all? And she said, no. Warren actually came to my house to buy shares of Burlington Northern. So I'm thinking, I was like, is the smarter one, or is the lady the smarter one? She's the one who sold shares, and actually went to her house. And on my left was this 14-year-old child, okay, who was part of, so Buffett has actually done this little service to society called the Secret Millionaires Club. And part of it is, actually mentoring, a lot of young children to start their own model car wash business and actually seeing how they flourish in their business. This guy at the age of 40 got Buffett's attention, and Buffett sends him free tickets to the annual event for the last 2 or 3 years. And I asked him, I was like, so what is the best thing? I mean, what is the best takeaway that you've had from, the last 2 years AGM? And he's like, in some respects, I'm better than Buffett. And I'm like, dude, what? You're 14 years old. So he's like, no, why am I better than Buffett? Because I have more years to compound my wealth. And I was like, that is like the best answer. So that was Buffett, the man, who practically everyone in Omaha swears by him. Everyone looks forward to those 3 days. And these 3 days are actually that churn the economy of Omaha. And obviously there is, the baseball league, just due shortly. Buffett, the businessman, my God. I tell you, the arena that Rajeev Bhai spoke about would easily do about, I think, 20 days worth of sale in 1 day. And the way people run after all these, See's Candies and Dairy Queen. But the key takeaway that I thought, which, by walking the arena, was trying to link up, Buffett and Charlie Munger's thought as to why is it that they're in these businesses. And from everything that I've read, this was the first time that I went there. I think what I saw differently this time was that he actually plugged in utility businesses for the first time. Now, until now he was only in the consumer part of the business. So he was selling candy, everything. Basically, let's assume that if you walk out of the house, out of every 100 rupees, you're going to spend 30 rupees in his companies. But now, those 30 rupees that actually go to the utility companies would typically also go to him. So he bought, what was it, Berkshire Energy? American Energy, which he renamed Berkshire Energy. He bought a company that actually makes these transmission cables. He bought a company that makes transformers. And he also mentioned about a company that makes a specialty chemical that pushes through the pipelines. So now, I think what I found very interesting was that if I were to think that, if I want to be Buffett at some point, all I need to do is successfully replicate his portfolio in India and identify the stocks and probably buy them when they're a good price. So first thing that I came here and I was like, okay, Burlington Northern, what do we find? And then obviously this whole Modi event is building up and, all the railroads are kind of something that people haven't spoken about in a very, very long time. So there, I'm like, okay, probably this is the first step to, Buffett. So that was a major change, the businessman. And comic, my God. I think, if I were to summarize the relationship between these in one word, it would be trust. This guy talks, that guy acknowledges. Charlie talks, Buffett acknowledges. And they do it with a lot of humor, which kind of tells me that these people actually get up in the morning wanting to go to work. And this is like a huge achievement. Because I know that there are not that many people that actually like to do that. Because there's always some issue that is, coming in your way or the weather and endless excuses. But these two guys were so damn energetic. Answering questions of shareholders from 9:30 to 3:30 with an hour's break. Detailed answers. And I think like Neil said, I'm making, the complicated. Now obviously there was this one analyst, my God, he practically spelled out the whole balance sheet. And I'm pretty sure more of the crowd lost him because parts of it even I didn't understand, Response to their question, Buffett's response and Charlie's response to that guy's question. First of all, you open the answer by, we love numbers. Somehow, okay, this guy's done something wrong or he said something wrong. And then he went on to explain the entire balance sheet in non-figurative terms and very simple English terms, which I was like, what, actually easy to understand. So maybe, I think us coming to this session is a step towards going to simplify, that whole concept of investing with all these funky words and, T's and P's and all that funky language. So overall, I mean, while these two guys are there, please, you guys make some arrangement, go there if you're serious value investors, because like he said, you're amongst a family of 40,000 people who actually believe in the whole thing. And yeah, and another thing, I don't know how he got these, because it was very clear in the start where, Buffett said that, we have a with everyone who's on the videos that we won't use these for commercial purposes. So please don't record. And I actually saw people around there who, if someone tried to take a picture, the people to the right or the left said, boss, this is not done. So just that whole ethic, you know, the whole faith in these people, the whole stadium, you know, an entire basketball stadium with one flood just on 2 people. And imagine, even people like Bill Gates were on the common arena. So this was a thrilling experience. And in my defense, sorry, the day I landed here, I've been waiting for this session because I wanted to see what your experiences are, but just see how destiny turns out, right? I mean, you happen to be late for the only session that you've been waiting for. But thanks for the opportunity. I really enjoyed my trip.
Just 2 small points. One is the recording was not done during the event. So the recording of the arena is allowed. There's no prohibition on that. And even taking pictures in the stadium before the meeting starts is allowed. So that was one. So meeting, we haven't taken any picture. Okay. So that is one. Another interesting thing that happened to me on the flight from San Francisco to Omaha was that I got to know that our monthly meetings have a very wide viewership. So on the flight, one person walked up to me and said, "Are you Rajeev Thakkar?" I said, "Yes." I was surprised. How does anyone know in the US? He says, "I watched your video on cycles and on the shipping sectors, and then I was talking to Monish Pabra about it, and then I bought Shipping Corporation and I sold it and I made money. Good for you." So that was quite surprising to have happened on the flight. So we are not alone. There's a wide view out there. That's what I learned after the meeting. Thank you so much.
The meeting is on. Everyone, please join us for dinner also. I would appreciate that. Please have some dinner and go, because otherwise everything goes waste. Thank you.